And so it's one of those books that I'd say it's more with the vein of a traditional superhero book, which I feel in a way is kind of gone off because you're dealing with like the non-costume anti-hero. Everything is so dark. And I just wanted to do a fun superhero book. And we've been shopping around, and people say, "Oh, we love it, but we're staying away from comics. We want to do graphic novels. We want to do more horror genre." And I was like, "No, I want to do superhero." So, hopefully, Atomic Basement, they're really excited about it, and it's fun storytelling. I think that once you get to reading it, it's just one of those things where, as issues go on, we're going to connect certain stories and bring in like neat drama along with great comedy.
So how did you and Guy come up with the concept of the superhero?
It was a concept. We have a couple co-creators, Reed Greenfield and Mark Charland, who kind of came up with the idea. And they were having problems of going through how to kind of push. It's like, well, we got an idea for a hero and blah, blah, blah. And they came up with the name Z-Blade XX, which I hated. I was like, Z-Blade XX. And we were talking before, it sounds very like anime manga style, and I'm like, oh, all right. So we started playing around with it, and they wanted my, I guess, pithy humor. I don't know. Just there's like, you asked me if I wanted to write for it, so I started coming up with stories. And I'm like, all right. And one thing you know, just we start weeks and weeks. I've been working on this book, and it just kind of happened. And I still kind of roll my eyes at the name, but I love the book. It's one of those things that I've grown to love, and I get happy, I get excited talking about it, because it's just, I fell into it. I literally fell into this. I was in the wrong place at the right time, or however you want to put it.
So what's the production schedule look like? Do you have a date right now?
Well, we're still in talks with Michael Wellman, who is head of Atomic Basement. He's really excited about the book. He is giving both Guy LeMay, the artist, and myself permission to start posting stuff on the website tentatively. So we're just kind of hammering. I don't want to say too much, but we're hammering stuff out. And it would be really nice if it was ready for Comic-Con this year. I don't know. If not, definitely next year. But hopefully 2009, you'll see it on his store shelf.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Now, I also wanted to talk about your comic book class that you teach. Now, it's in the English curriculum, which seems kind of interesting. How does comic books fit into the whole realm of literature?
Well, we can take, what Steve had said. It's a form of storytelling. It's a form of reading, and so it's subject to all the things that you can do when you're analyzing, interpreting, appreciating, talking about stories and talking about literature in a classroom. It's hard for me to describe in a nutshell, but I see comics as part of this continuum of text that sometimes have words and pictures, sometimes have only pictures. Concrete poetry does this. Victorian illustrated novels do this. A lot of the kind of experimental hypertext communication or interactive fiction does this, where it incorporates pictures. Why not comics? Why not introduce students and faculty, people in the English studies field to the idea of the comics page, that this is another way that you can convey stories or set forth ideas or create poetry or achieve some kind of lyricism. So I started pressing for that and developed a course about, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago, and was happy to see in the last year or two that it became a permanent part of the CSUN catalog, so that potentially someone else besides me could teach it in future, and that was something I was proud of, because until then, until it becomes permanent, it's just sort of my ad hoc thing. But when it becomes permanent, then it becomes a part of the curriculum that everybody in the institution can get behind. There's a lot of comic scholarship in English studies, but I have colleagues in art history, mass communications, journalism, sociology, philosophy, even anthropology, film studies. You can study comics from all sorts of ways. Why not English? We do stories, we do narrative and storytelling, and I think that fits right in. And I'm happy that it's a regular part every year now of the CSUN curriculum. So.
Now, many people say that traditional print media is dying. Newspapers are going out of business, and the book publishing industry is troubled. So I would like to get everyone's feedback on this one issue. What would you say is the future of comic books? Will kids still be picking them up like this and looking at them in 20 years? What should the industry be trying to do to survive?
If I can, I'm sorry, but we've got a couple comic book creators that shop at the store. They worked for DC, Marvel 20, 25, 30 years ago. They thought the next paycheck they got was going to be their last. They thought that, you know what I mean? They thought that comic books were really a passing fancy. I mean, they became a big deal again in the 60s and 70s. You know, by then, you know, by the end of the 70s, they thought, well, there's not going to be anything left. I don't think comic books are going anywhere. I think there's a visceral feeling to having a comic book in your hand, whether it's a trade paperback or an actual comic. I don't think they're going anywhere. They might change, and there may be different forms and formats, much like the graphic novel and the trade paperback have kind of, you know, replaced a part of the market. I don't think comic books as a real format is ever going anywhere.
Dr. Hatfield, do you have any?
Well, one of the answers that people always give to questions like these now has to do with the internet, has to do with downloadable material or material that's viewable online. And that certainly is a energetic area, what we call web comics. A lot of those look kind of like the comic books you would see in your newspaper. They have 3 or 4 panels, they have a gag, they have a joke a day, maybe they have a continuing story. Some people are trying to push that form farther to scroll more or use bigger images or use things that you can only do online. Trying to find their own aesthetic there. And that will be an area where some people will make art, if not make money, if not make their sole living at it. So that's a kind of frontier. I would agree with Warren that I don't think it will replace the printed comic as an exclusive platform. It may become a way that a lot of people get their comics delivered. It is a way that a lot of people already are reading comics daily. It will supplement the comic book and graphic novel experience, and it may, for people who are used to reading Doonesbury or Foxtrot or Cathy or whatever in the newspaper, the web may replace a lot of that kind of newspaper experience. Yeah. But when you start nesting panels on a page and building a bound comic, it's very difficult to imagine how the downloadable comics or Kindle-style readers, electronic things, are going to capture that effect. That's going to be pretty hard to do. So there'll still be very strong subculture, I think, that wants to read comics in a printed and bound form.
And Steve, do you have anything to add?
Well, just I would say real quickly, I think that I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think it'd be great if they started printing comics on like recycled and cheaper paper, like thinner paper, because I mean some of them are beautiful pages, and I know that when Z-Blade comes out, I'd love to have it on that, but I wouldn't mind putting it on less expensive paper so kids could buy more, because I think the prices are getting a little outrageous, like $4.99 for, you know, I don't want to hit the industry, but I think it would be made affordable. But I agree with these guys what they said. You know, the electronic age is either adding to or kind of spinning off its own thing as far as what the traditional comic strip is.
One of the things that really fills the bookshelves now in the big stores for graphic novels is the translated manga or Japanese comics, and they come out of a completely different studio and publishing arrangement. They have a different economy, and they are able with those imported volumes to give you 100 or 200 pages for $10 instead of 20 or 30 pages for $4, and I think that's the way a lot of the economy is going.
Well, thank you so much. We've ran out of time, but I am Julie White, and this is On Point.